On this episode, you're getting to know Mary Jacobs, and she is one half of Vitality Community Fitness, a local gym that welcomes folks of all fitness skill levels. Vitality Community Fitness prides themselves for changing the narratives of the fitness industry, from one that often centers unsustainable diets and unrealistic extreme transformations, to a vision and purpose of growth and community. If you're looking to move your body more in a safe space, intentionally built with inclusivity in mind, with excellent coaches and a group of supportive and kind people, check out Vitality Community Fitness. Visit their website, goodworkoutsnicepeople.com, to book a call with their head coach, Kristin, and get into some free classes this week, y'all. No sales pitches, try the gym for free, and see what their community is all about. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Self-Aware Millennial. I am your host, J.Mix, and today we have Mary Jacobs with me, and we're going to be talking about building community in New Orleans and just in our specific spaces, which I feel like New Orleans is not a big city, but like we don't always be knowing the same people, but I feel like between you and I, we know the whole city.
I agree. Between you and I, we definitely have to know at least every single person.
Yes. So we're going to talk in a sec with you, but first I want to give y'all a quick in the mix updates, announcements, as I do every single time. First things first, this is being recorded, coming out in January. So at this point, we will have had a whole bunch of shows that have already happened at Rivertown, but we may have like one weekend left. So if you want to check me out, and Steven, who was in the last episode, and Pat, who you've probably already seen like kind of surfacing on my social medias, the singer / like we are all in this show at Rivertown that's running until the 28th of January. And it's called The Big Easy Beat, and it's an homage to New Orleans hits, and like it's like the Jersey Boys meets New Orleans hits. So
I love that, and I love Pat, so that's gonna be cute.
So check us out there, and yeah, link's gonna be in the bio or wherever you are listening to this to get the tickets. The second thing I want to let y'all know about is that Multi-Hyphenate Mondays, which is something I announced in the last episode. It's another thing that I'm doing with Pat, where we have a reoccurring gig at Always Lounge that's going to feature artists, multi-hyphenate artists, and the thing about the multi-hyphenate part is that like they're not going to be showcasing the thing that they're like the best at, meaning like what people know them for. Like, oh, let's say like you know this person as a drag performer, but you didn't know that they were also a singer or something like that. Like that's where they get to showcase their singing. And so we're collaborating with other artists around the city, and we're basically putting them together to be like, yo, y'all are dope and we want y'all to collaborate. So we're going to collaborate them as like their strengths, and then we're also going to collaborate them in the other means of what we don't necessarily know them as. But yeah, that's the world of Multi-Hyphenate Mondays, and I hope that y'all can check us out. It's going to be happening every first and third Monday of every month, at least right now, starting January 23rd. Check us out. Check out the link in the description for that. And oh wow, I forgot about that too. So I also just got this next big announcement. This is not happening until Good Friday, but I will be playing Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar. And
dang.
But I'm playing Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar in burlesque. So it's gonna be crazy. I'm like, first and foremost, I should say I've done Jesus Christ Superstar a couple of times now. This will be my third time, but I've never played Judas, obviously. But I have like sang some of Judas's songs in the past, thinking to myself, dang, I want to play Judas someday. So now I get to do that in burlesque. So y'all should definitely check that out. I'll have the links in the bio for that as well. 2024 is up and running for me.
You are so busy.
I am busy, but I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm blessed.
Absolutely. You're busy doing stuff you love, and that's the best kind of busy.
Yeah. And I've learned, at least throughout this past year, or 2023, like I also like, as long as I make time to rest, like I can make it through the entire year. I just gotta know when my body is like ready to like
absolutely
be done. So moving along, this next segment, I usually just like to give a shout out to podcasts that I have been finding very informative. I like to do local podcast shout outs as well.
You shouted me out a few episodes ago.
Sure did.
I was so tickled.
Yeah. I mean, like, especially yours, like the ways in which you have like conversations with your people within the city, folks that I know too. I'm just like, it's just so nice to hear other locals on podcasts talking about New Orleans things.
Absolutely.
Because it's just, I don't know, it's so niche, and I love that. But shout out to you. We'll talk about your podcast.
We don't have to talk about
it
now. You already shouted me out, and I was really appreciative. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So this podcast I want to shout out. They're not local, but I've been listening to them a lot. It's called Pay the Tab, which is it's like a podcast about reparations, and I love reparations at all. But it basically talks about like why reparations are needed for Black folks, Black Americans in America, including the ones that aren't maybe from America, like specifically. But yeah, it goes into all that. It's a really good it's a really good podcast, and I've been listening to it for a good, I don't know, I think they've been out for about 2 years now. And they make some really good cases. They bring on reputable sources, people, not doctors. Well, they have doctors too. Like all the people that you want to be hearing about that particular subject. I say this because this is coming out like right around Martin Luther King and like going into Black History Month. So anybody that wants more information, even though I feel like you should know this stuff by now, it's okay. Check it out.
Always learn more.
Yeah, always learn more. It's called Pay the Tab. Okay, now we can introduce Mary Jacobs. As I've already if you were listening to the other episodes, like way back when, a couple of episodes ago, I was telling y'all about Mary's podcast, which is, oh my gosh,
Planet Nola.
Planet Nola, because I'm thinking about Mary's Rack.
Yes, I got a lot of things to name, so it's okay if you get it mixed up.
Yeah, you'd probably be better at like explaining everything that you do better than I do. So
I'm going to talk about my podcast a little bit?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so I have a podcast with my dear friend Carrie Mulder. It's called Planet Nola, and it's people in New Orleans. We showcase people in New Orleans that are cool or doing cool things, but people that may otherwise not be getting the light shined their way. So, there's a lot of artists in our city. There's a lot of musicians in our city. There's a lot of great food in our city. And our city likes to showcase really specific people in each of those industries, and they kind of forget about everybody else,
Yes.
Like I like to talk to like the bartenders, like, like I like to talk to like the real people that are really doing the stuff that makes our city what it is. And it's mostly just a way for me to like showcase all my friends and compile kind of like a living history of people that I think are cool. And it's been on YouTube and all the podcast apps for a couple years now. And we've just shifted the show format to being a live show. Yes.
And it was great.
Thank you. You came to our first one.
I did. And I enjoyed myself.
Thank you so much. That was kind of born of me just having ADHD and needing to try something new, But I've always wanted a New Orleans style late night show, like a classic, like, late night, but only New Orleans, or even like a New Orleans SNL. Yeah. Like every Saturday night you come to a venue and then there's like 6 sketches and they've been written that week, and like the amount of money you would need to pull this off is like great because you'd need all these artists working together. But that's kind of what we did for Planet Nola. Like I just like asked a ton of creative people to collaborate on this first one. John Reynolds helped, Laura Sanders helped, some friends that I grew up with, my friend Katie DeBuse helped. She just like stage managed for us. Carrie Mulder, of course. We just had so much help, and the talent was incredible.
Had community.
Had community. I'm really good at asking for help, which is what I'm sure we'll get into as we keep talking.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a really, really, really good first live show, and I'm really hoping to continue doing them live. I will say it is such a production. Like you were there, so you saw how many moving parts, and like it went mostly smoothly for the first time, but I would want to clean it up more, and like that was like a lot of work.
See, I came in and I was just like, I had never been to Big Couch before, and I was just like, wow, this is a vibe. This is the vibe. All the like the wall of couches. Like,
yes.
Do you know where this couch
That's
is from?
Carrie.
Like,
she's so cute.
Absolutely love that. But just like the whole like walking in, seeing it, and then going into this venue, and then like, oh man, we're about to see a show, like, and then like, I don't know, the conversations that were had, they were like spot on. I'm so happy you had Kat.
Yeah, Kat's the best.
And I never even knew Kat was in the Cupid Shuffle music video.
I know, that was incredible. That was incredible. No, it's my favorite story of hers. And she gets so sensitive, but she did tell me that story like the first time I met her. Or maybe it was the second time. But okay. I was like, this is a story that you should tell people immediately. Yeah. They need to know this about you. And that's why that's the whole reason I asked you to be on the podcast. I was like, you have to come and you have to tell this story. Mm-hmm. It's a great story.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I think overall production wise, even y'all had programs.
Okay, like, that was Laura Sanders, who's an incredible stand-up in town. I don't know if you know Laura. You should have her on your podcast at some point.
Okay.
She is a creative genius. She also did the logo for Planet Nola, which everyone should look it up. Everyone should look up the Planet Nola logo.
It's fire.
It's stunning. It's based on a logo that I had another friend design for a play that I wrote many years ago. And Laura Sanders took that original inspiration and she made it in her style, and she just like amped it. She's a comedian and she's a graphic designer and she's just a badass.
Multi-hyphenate.
She really is. And she's been on the podcast too.
Okay.
And so she was our opening comic at the last show, and she did the programs, and she and she was also at the first show of Planet Nola Live. I was just going to put some chairs on the stage and call it a day. And Laura Sanders was like, no, you need to bring the couch. You need to bring a table. You need to make it look like the set.
Yeah, make it look comfortable.
And I was like, all right, Laura. And I kept joking that I was mad at her for making me work because once she said it, I couldn't unsee it.
Right.
And so that's why you got to collaborate with people because they make you do better, you know?
Some folks got really good eyes and will tell you like exactly what you need, you know.
And sometimes when you're creating something, you kind of have tunnel vision. And like, and my task is like the booker is like my tunnel vision is on the guests. And it's like, I want to make sure that these people who don't do podcasts for a living feel comfortable, they feel prepared, and that's like a whole job in and of itself to like prep those people. So that's where my brain is most of the time. So I don't zoom out and see those things. So it's great to have collaborators who kind of can zoom out and be like, but what about this? What about this? Mm-hmm. And then that's how you work together, you know?
Yeah.
So that's Planet Nola.
Yeah. And so let's just go into Mary's Rack.
Yeah. So Mary's Rack is my newest business. I started it in 2020. I started just as like a simple clothing reseller. Like I've always been a big thrifter my entire life out of necessity at some points and out of just sheer love of it at others. Mm-hmm. And in 2018, I made the New Year's resolution to stop buying anything new. And I went to all secondhand. And from there, it just really kind of evolved the way I consumed and thought about consumption. And so that's really how Mary's Rack was born, is like I was just seeing people spend all this money on fast fashion and just clothes in general. And also them not really even knowing what they like. So not only are they spending money that's not in the best ethical ways at these brands that suck, but they're also getting stuff that they don't even like a lot of the times, or maybe that they wear once or twice. So Mary's Rack has become, I'm a stylist, so I secondhand style people. Mm-hmm. And I document the journey of secondhand styling on YouTube and on TikTok and on Instagram. I'm on all of them.
Yeah, all the socials.
So Mary's Rack has a lot of facets to it as a stylist. I do the actual client stylings, but I also do closet clean out coaching, where I go through a closet with my clients and I help them identify what's not working. Like there's a pile of stuff in this closet that you've literally never worn. Why are we buying these things? Mm-hmm. Let's look at them and try to figure out either how to wear them or why we shouldn't buy stuff like this anymore. So it's not just clean out services, it's coaching. Like I'm brutal with people.
You are doing good work with that.
Thank you. It's so funny to have a clothing business where I'm telling people to not buy clothing most of the time. But
it's like hoarders for clothes.
Yes. So I do a lot of just like individual work with people and teaching them how to consume more consciously by helping them know what their style is. Yeah. I released a workbook this summer, a Finding Your Style workbook, where I go through all of my tips and tricks to find and name your style, how to shop more sustainably. So Mary's Rack has a lot of facets, and I started it in 2020 and it's evolved so much. It's still evolving right now. I had my first secondhand Sunday market a few weeks ago with a bunch of other vendors. That was incredible. I do these things called fill-a-bag sales because people,
I love that.
Yeah, people donate to me, as you know. And so I like collect all these donations and then I curate and organize them. And then I do a bag sale where it's like a flat price, and it's really evolving, and I'm constantly trying new things with Mary's Rack. And I have a really big 5-year vision that I don't want to talk about here because I'm not ready to talk about it fully, but I have a huge vision for where it's going and what I want for it, and just putting in that work right now and getting it done, you know?
The fact that you have a 5-year plan like that, you know how many people don't have a 5-year plan?
Well, most of us don't. You just got to start. You just got to start thinking like, okay, what do I want? And I think that sometimes we're so busy surviving the moment to moment, we forget to remember like we can zoom out at any time and be like, all right, is what I'm doing right now aligned with what it is I want for future me? Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm future me right now from 5 years ago, and I think about how much work I've put in and got to this point. Like, you just got to it's self-care.
Yeah.
It's self-care to make a plan, kind of.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, that was a lot. That's Mary's rack.
That was not a lot. That was actually exactly what I feel like a lot of people are going to need to hear. Especially we're still in the new year and everything. Like, this is something they're going to need. So that 5 years down the line, they could be like, I remember where I got my inspiration from.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about really quick, we will go into Vitality Fitness.
Of course.
But first and foremost, people probably like, J.Mix, how do you know Mary? Like,
oh my God, we do. We need to tell them the story.
Yeah, we got to tell them the whole story. There's a whole entire story.
We got to tell them the story.
So I definitely have mentioned this in the past. I've told y'all, like, the way I started musical theater was like kind of at random. My older sister, Sabrina, was a co-music director for a play that was happening at former Gallier Hall, which is in New Orleans, and they have like a little itsy bitsy theater in there.
Ty Tracy Theater, baby.
Ty Tracy Theater. It was at that point there was a kids production company or kids theater production company called Crescent City Lights Youth Theater
Another big name.
Really fast.
It's a hard name, but you nailed it.
That used to do shows in there, and at that point they were doing a show called A Dream on Royal Street, which is a spinoff of A Midsummer Night's Dream, but it's based in New Orleans. So my sister said somebody had like called out, or like they needed a replacement for like one small little role, like the queen.
I remember
Mardi
you
Gras.
were the queen, baby. I remember you so well in that whole little thing.
Yeah. And so like I remember like stepping in for this role and like also being a fly-by-night. I was a fly-by-night too.
I remember that.
But I remember stepping into the role and I was like, wait, these are all kids first and foremost, but we're also doing a really cute, fun show. I know some of the kids in this show already. I've been to school with them and whatnot, but like I just remember being like, so what it like, I didn't know exactly what it was. I didn't know what musical theater was. I kind of knew.
You were like, where'd all these people come from?
Yeah. I'm like, this is
what are they all doing here?
And I saw kids younger than me. I was like, oh, so you like 5 years old doing this too? Like, where was I for the last like 10 years?
Community theater is incredible.
Yeah. So I'm getting there. So I met Mary through that show. That was my first musical, I would say. And I also will say that like I remember looking up to Mary because Mary did such a great job in that production. I was like, wow, dang.
I was Helena.
Yeah. I was like, she can act, you know?
Thank you.
And then another cool thing about that particular show was that the writer
Alan Menken.
was Alan Menken. So I didn't know who Alan Menken was at that point either. I should say that. They were just like, yeah, Alan Menken is going to come see the show. And it kind of got a lot of press because they're like, ooh, Alan Menken. But I'm like, I had no idea who this man is.
He's just written every Disney song you love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until after the show was over. He played a little medley of the music.
And Little Shop, too.
Little Shop of Horrors. What are the others? I forget the other ones.
Aladdin.
Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that dude. That's why all these people here. That's why he was on the news.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it didn't click for me until that moment. But also before that, it was hilarious because I didn't know who this man was. And I think a lot of the kids, like we were like, oh yeah, this guy is probably a lot more important. Like he's an important guy, but like we were kids, so you're just like with our big digital cameras, like taking selfies with them. And stuff.
Yeah.
And now we look back on it, and I was like,
yeah. I have a picture of me hugging him, and he told me, he said, "You're an incredible actress." Oh, I'll never forget. Alan Menken told me I was an incredible actress. No big deal.
Oh my gosh! So that was like my first experience, like doing theater, anything.
Yeah, you had a good
theater,
first experience,
and it really set the foundation. I started doing more and more Crescent City Lights shows after that, and like then I got out of that, started doing bigger stuff around the city and whatnot. And I still have my equity card. I'm doing a lot of I still do theater now. Yeah. Shout out to Julie Condi.
Yeah, Julie Condi. She's talking about building community. Like she really set up a lot of creative kids in this city, and she was I really look up to her because she was not some people that work with kids are just too precious.
Yeah.
And Julie Condi is not a precious woman. She is not going to be precious with your child.
She's going to tell it like it is.
But she's going to make your kids learn how to be in theater. I'll tell you that. And so I really appreciated that. And that's how my high school directors were too. And I think it really did set me up for success in business and performance because I have thick skin. Like, and I like, as soon as I'm done a show, I want to talk about it, you know, and I want to get those notes and I want to know what can be better. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that. But Julie Condi didn't, maybe not afraid of that.
She sure didn't. You know, another thing I was curious about as I got older, because I remember like just so many of the shows that they produced there, I didn't know about. Like I learned, but like the music was catchy, and I was like, "What is the bop?" Like we did Red Sneaks, and I was just like, "Oh, like what in the what?" Like all the music like that I learned just through those like small children's theater things. Like I was like, it still like sticks to me today. And I'm always just curious. I would love to maybe have her on the podcast at some point.
Get Julie Condi on your podcast. It's a great idea.
I might. I just might. I might
do it before I do it.
She's coming to my party, so
I'm good. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna make sure I find out, see when she's available. But also, I want to see. I just want to know more about like how did she like vet the process of like picking the musicals and like the little.
It's not easy to pick a show. I'll tell you that. It takes a lot of patience because you got to read a lot of stuff before you can land on something.
Yeah.
You have to be patient.
Well, while we're in the conversation of community and like just I guess we also had a lot of role models that have also kind of paved the way for us to know like how to build community within the community that we want. When did you feel that you knew who your community was based off of like maybe what you were building for yourself? Like when you realize, oh, my community is this, like these are the people that I want to vibe with and that vibe with me. Like who do you think that is?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I feel like I was looking for community from a very, very, very young age. Like from a super young age, I was really interested in finding my people. And so when I was in high school, I started off in like the local punk and ska community. So I was like going to shows every weekend. I was a big fangirl. I was, you know, I had a big camera. I took that everywhere with me. I was taking pictures of everybody. And then I went away to college and then same thing. I kind of fell into the scene up there and I was traveling for shows. All my friends were associated with a music scene. A lot of those people were my people. I really liked the values that they toted of feminism and anti-capitalism. And then I had a little bit of a falling out with the punk community because there's a lot of hypocrisy in it, much like everything else in the world. There's a lot of white men that have a lot of power that say that they are inclusive and radical and feminists, but they don't actually practice any of that. And so I kind of had a falling out and a sad awakening where I was like, okay, like these idols of mine actually don't have my best interest at heart, and they actually don't consider my experience in this process and like how hard it is for me to be a woman in this world and in this community. So I fell out of that world. I moved back to New Orleans. I started roller derby. Yeah, I did roller derby for a few years, and I really enjoyed the sport a lot. But the community at that time wasn't at its high point, and I was really just not happy in the community that was being built there. Sorry, Big Easy Roller Derby. You guys used to be really toxic. Rumors are that they're not anymore, and rumors are that they really are embracing of new people. And like when I first joined it, I was like, this place is very cold, and you have to really earn your keep, and it felt very exclusionary at first. And also, it's a hard sport, and something that could be my own stuff. But I couldn't find my groove there, and I got injured. And once you get injured, that really puts stuff in perspective. Yeah. So I was just like, okay, this isn't my total world. And then I started doing comedy in New Orleans. I was kind of doing comedy at the same time as I was doing roller derby. And I was at a theater that used to exist called the New Movement. I don't know if you know about the New Movement. Yeah, there was a huge falling out in 2017, I think it was, because the people that ran that community, quote unquote, community space were just kind of failing as leaders. And the community kind of came together. There was a spontaneous 7-hour town hall that I was spontaneously voted the mediator of. So I stood before my community for 7 hours and tried to mediate a really intense conversation. There's tons of news coverage on this stuff, so people can look it up if they want. And so that was interesting because that was a community that I had been really heavily in, and I also really struggled to fit in there and to find my place there because I was already a performer before I went there, and I was already teaching. I had been teaching comedy for years because I used to teach summer camps. I taught theater for years. And so I still felt like I was like slamming myself into a community there. And it also kind of fell apart in my hands because it was just the people at the front of a community are really the ones that set the tone. And like they need to guide and be accountable and hold people accountable. And when you don't have that, it's so easy for there to be a lost path. And I've seen that countless times in communities. Yeah. And I'm desperate for a community because one of the values of punk and the punk like subculture, and I'm not just talking about the music, I'm talking kind of like about the lifestyle ethos of like this like anti-capitalist, like, you know, building a more equitable world, like the beautiful values of what the counterculture movement actually was are things that I truly hold deep in my heart and truly believe are attainable. And so I knew from a really young age, like I want to be a part of that. And I want to be in a world that not only says those things, but lives those things. Mm-hmm. And so when I met my wife in 2015, we didn't date immediately, but we started dating pretty soon after. And we were just like, what, lightning in a bottle or whatever they say. Like it just like sometimes you just meet your match, and then it all started to make sense. Yeah. And I really believed in her. She really believed in me. And that was kind of the start of us building our own community.
I just want to say she's right off the camera, y'all.
She's here.
If you ever want to just come back and just be like, hey, y'all, like, feel free, you know.
She doesn't want to.
Like, I'm good.
She doesn't want to. She needs a lot of camera prep to be. I'm usually the mouthpiece in the relationship, but she's
no worries.
She's my biggest fan, and I'm her biggest fan, and everything.
I can tell. I love this. I really do.
Yeah, we love each other a lot, and so it's easy to kind of find your place in the world when you have one person that really believes in you.
Oh man,
I know, and so I feel like that's really what kind of set us in tow, and now we've got this incredible varied community. Like, I mean, I still do comedy. I'm still really laced into the comedy community in New Orleans, and we've had our gym for 8 years now, Vitality Community Fitness.
Congrats.
Yeah, next month will be 8 years, which is wild because I'm 33, and so it just feels unreal to have started something at like 25 and to still be doing it. Like this is like my longest relationship ever, like even including Kristin and I, because Kristin and I broke up for a year of that. So like literally the gym has like been around longer than our relationship in a way now, even though we started it together.
Wow.
So it's been such an interesting thing, and it is a business, so it's weird to put the word community in business, but and there's we can talk more about that, of course.
I have to.
We can definitely talk more about that, but there's no denying that there has been, over these years, a community built within this gym and because of this gym, and it has now expanded way beyond us. And I would say we don't get it right 100% of the time, but we're always willing to do better and get better and be accountable. And we, you know, it's hard, but it's really good. And like, I feel like I finally have found my people. Yeah. And part of that is because I've just been working so hard to find my people for so long.
I know. It's something about your 30s. Once you're there, it just all starts to make sense, and everything just, it feels like, at least for me, I'm going to be 32 in a little bit. Actually, I will be 32 by the time this comes out.
Yes.
So I understand, like, just the whole, like, 20s is like, what am I doing? And then 30s is like, oh, this, you know?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, at least for most of us. I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying for my personal experience. It also seems like for your personal experience
for sure, yeah.
Vitality Fitness, which you were just talking about. I kind of want to know more about the things that, like the little hurdles that you had to go over in order to continue moving through it. Like, what were some of the like most difficult? I'm also talking for like small business owners, including myself, because I'm still learning a lot about Triple Threat Media and like how to move forward with it. But like, what are some of the building blocks that you have to have in order for it to move to improve?
That's a big question.
Yeah,
that's a big question. It's a big question. From the jump, I would say the biggest thing that we had is that we had a lot of energy, and we were both really. You gotta believe. Yeah. In the beginning, you really have to be obsessed with whatever it is you want to do, and I was really obsessed with Kristin, and I really was like, you can do anything, you know? And she was obsessed with me, and so she just believed whatever I said. And so in the beginning, I think that what drove us through those first couple years at least was just us sheerly believing in each other, you know, and believing in what people would tell us, you know? And also, if you have, like I said, if you have one fan, you can do anything. We just said the idea to some friends of mine, my friend Katie DeBuse and her husband George. They we just pitched it to them. We were like, we're thinking about starting this gym, this program, and it'd be like this. And this is a good friend of mine. She actually worked on Planet Nola. I dropped her name earlier.
Yeah.
They were our very first clients because they said to us on that moment, they said, if you start a gym, we'll join. And they did. They were our first 2 members. George is still a member. Katie does PT with us. And they meant it. And so if you have a good person in your corner that just shows up for you, first of all, don't let that person go. Mm-hmm. And, make them proud. Yeah. And so the energy and just finding that one fan, that one person, and you probably already have these people.
Oh yeah, 100%. We're sitting in one of the their places now.
Yes, and embracing those people and letting them embrace you.
Yeah,
and I think that's it. Having that first fan, even if it's just your partner, or a friend that's there to support you along the way, embracing them, listening to what they say, ask them for feedback.
Yeah,
and riding that first energetic wave, is really important. I think that's step 1, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great step 1. And I guess I'm also wondering in terms of from a business standpoint, something that you had to overcome in order to move forward.
Oh Lord. Okay, there's a lot we had to overcome. Number 1, we had to overcome not being men. We had to overcome not looking like gym people, you know? It's to this day, I tell people I own a gym and I get an up and down. Or I'll be like, we own a gym, and they'll be like, but what do you do to me? And I'm like, it's so funny that people think that to own a business, you have to look a certain way. And it's I could own whatever Tesla, you wouldn't know. Obviously you would know because Elon Musk owns Tesla, but you know what I'm saying?
But they're all recalled right now, so.
Yeah, right. Oh God. I hate that I even said his name, honestly. I can't believe I gave him airtime. But the point is why was I talking about that? Oh, what was I talking about?
I was asked you about moving forward with business when what was the hurdles, obstacles?
Oh, I know what I was saying. I was saying an obstacle is being an other in the industry. We were queer women. We didn't necessarily look like your typical gym bro.
Yeah.
Neither of us come from money. Mm-hmm. We're both from New Orleans, which is another huge thing.
Hey, that's really hard to come by these days. I'm just saying.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying.
And I'm not trying to be a hater, but when people come from other places and have other places' money, and then they open businesses here with other places' money, it sucks. It's good for you, and we see it happening in the gym world all the time. Mm-hmm. People come with huge startup cash. We started with almost nothing, you know what I mean? Almost not, compared to any other business there is. Yeah. I basically worked a full-time job for the entirety of our business until 2 years ago. And Kristin also was working other trainer jobs. She was a trainer at some private businesses. She was a trainer at the Anytime Fitness, all while we were building our business. Because we had to. We didn't have a little nest egg to kind of sit on. Yeah. So it's kind of you're building a business while still having to get fed and work your day job.
Hard.
It is hard, and I'm sure you know.
Hard.
I'm
still in that part of it right now for me. And
it's hard because you're tired. An obstacle is when you're a micro business and you have no money, you're going to have to be working tooth and nail to make money because you're probably going to have to work another job for a while, unless you have a nest egg that you can live off of, which good for you if you do. So that's a huge obstacle. A huge obstacle is education. How much do you know about running a business of the type that you're in? And what I'll say is that Kristin and I learned how to run a gym off of YouTube, off of podcasts, and off of people that we look up to and paying attention to what they were doing and what we liked and what we didn't like. Even we were paying attention to people that we didn't like what they were doing. I think T&M is a great example. I was talking about the New Movement earlier, that comedy theater. I was attending that theater as we were starting Vitality, and before they even hit the that is before they blew up and nobody messes with them anymore. Yeah. I was already observing the toxicity, and I was like, this is not what I want my community to look like. And I was just kind of paying attention for what I didn't want from the jump, while still participating in the community. It's because
still very valuable.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, this is not the feeling that I want my clients to have, know? And so I take note of the people, even if I don't necessarily vibe with them, there's still something to learn from those people, why don't I like what they're doing and what do I have that's different?
Yes.
I think sometimes people just do stuff that other people are doing because they've seen it done. They're like, okay, this is how I run this business. And it's like, actually, you can do something however you want to do it. And that's kind of what we did. And that's been our strength, is kind of doing it our own way.
Yeah.
So the obstacles of money is hard. The obstacles of time is really hard. The privilege thing is hard, you know?
You also mentioned asking for help. And
Yeah.
You said you learned how to do that better.
It's taken us years, and we are still figuring out how to ask for help. Actually, we're about to hit 8 years, and we just last week consulted with a person that we've looked up to for years. And now we're actually going to she's going to be our mentor.
Oh.
And yeah, I think it's going to be a game changer for us. And so that took my wife asking for help, reaching out to her and being like, is this something you would ever consider doing? And we are just getting constantly better at knowing who to ask. And, you know, when you ask for help, you have to be really conscious of who you're asking, because it has to be someone you trust. Because just because you ask somebody for help doesn't mean that you have to take everything they give you, you know, because people are good at giving help, but sometimes they don't realize that it's still your baby at the end of the day. And like, you want help, but like, you're still allowed to say, okay, maybe that doesn't work. And that's where things get complicated, because you don't want to let people down. You want to people please. You did ask them for help, but now you're not getting what you thought you were going to get. Like, you got to be, and that's where like the leadership stuff comes in, and like being able to like be like, okay, thank you for this. Like, what about like kind of like taking what they've got and like evolving it to work for you, or like, and being in constant communication and partnership with people, you know, and it's a give and take. It is literally a conversation. Oh, we barter. Our gym,
Barter 2024, y'all.
Our gym exists on the barter system. We've bartered over the years for things like you would not believe. And honestly, our barters have gotten us through a lot in the years, like a lot. So I recommend, especially if you're a small or micro business, leaning into the barter. And there's a good way to do a trade, and you should definitely like do some research. But there's a way to do trades that make everybody feel good. And that's how a trade should feel. It should feel like everybody's getting a good deal.
Yeah.
So
I would love to do like just a whole podcast on just that. And I mentioned this in the past couple of episodes. Who was it? Material Institute did one where it was like kind of like an introduction to bartering, like day. It was like on a Saturday. It was from like 12 to 3, and it was like just like this class where like they just, and everybody there like was, you know, they signed up to be like, yeah, I would like to barter these skills and blah, blah, blah. And everybody started meeting each other. And now they're doing like a time, I forget, it's called like a time something. I can't think of the whole thing. But I don't know. It's like an intentional, I like how they did it. It was like very intentional about like, okay, this is what everyone is here for. You know, showcase your strengths. We kind of all talked about like things that we needed.
That's really cool.
And, you know,
and if anyone was there that's really cool. That's a great idea.
But it wasn't like they were trying to create a system that would work, so that the next time we do it, like they'll have it all set up, and then we can actually start, you know, utilizing it as a bartering.
That's really
process.
cool. That's a great idea.
So shout out to Material Institute.
Genius.
Yeah. I have so many. I can ask so many questions about.
Listen, I could talk forever. Don't worry.
Yeah. Maybe at this point in the podcast conversation, where are we? What time are we at?
12:23. Oh, I'm there.
Okay. Yeah, this is actually a perfect time for us to take a quick break. Y'all get some juice, whatever you drink. Yeah, juice. I don't know why I said juice. And then we'll be back and we'll continue this conversation with Mary.
Yay.
Is this conversation speaking to you right now? Do you feel the self-awareness taking over your body like a real good song? I want you to make a mental note to share the Self-Aware Millennial podcast with someone you love, because sharing is caring and love is not possessive. Sorry, y'all, but y'all can't have it to yourself. But for real, y'all know how good it feels when someone shares with you, whether it's their resources, their food, their wisdom, or their spouse. Okay, well, some of us. Spread the love. Decapitalize your mind and practice the gift of sharing. And want to help us reach new audiences? Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're feeling extra giving, leave a compliment. Come on. You know you want to. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey, y'all, we back. We have some more uncomfortable conversations to have before we be rolling out of here. First thing I want to kind of talk about is some of the more challenges that you've had with everything that has been going on through everything that you do, like Mary's Rag, Planet Nola and Vitality Fitness, but like pick your choose because you got a lot going on. So
right, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy for me to talk about Vitality because it's such a structured business. You know, we have like an actual brick and mortar location, so it just feels like it's the most established of all of the things.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. One of the hardest things to do when you're creating community is the accountability process that involves in creating community, because people forget that being in community with people means you're gonna have to show up when things are good, but also show up when things are bad and communicate through hard things. And I think what a lot of communities miss is they don't do the hard stuff. And that's what I saw a lot in the communities that I was in before is nobody wants to address the bullies. Nobody wants to address the problematic people or the people that are hurting other people, the harm causers. And not even big harm. I'm not talking big harm. I'm talking someone using someone's incorrect pronoun. And, you know, and being able to, as the leader, saying like, hey, that person's pronouns are actually they, them, like, just so you know. And then it's on the community members' part to be like, okay, thank you, and take that and hear us. Vitality has a lot of like kind of unusual policies and like, you know, I hate to say rules, but kind of rules in our space that make us very different from other gyms. Like we are a body positive or body neutral space in that we don't talk about our bodies negatively, or like, I mean, you can talk about it positively, but we're not commenting on our weight. We're not commenting on our weakness. We're not commenting on, oh, I ate so much this weekend. We don't do any fat shaming in our space, any food shaming. And the way that we accomplish that is we have to constantly be aware and shutting it down. And all of our trainers have gotten really good at it. Kristin is especially good at it. And she's also really good at navigating hard stuff with compassion, mostly because she winks a lot. She's a big winker.
Winks are great, okay.
But like approaching hard conversations with people from a place of like compassion and just being like, hey, our goal here is to make a space that everybody feels really good in. And like that requires us having some growing pains sometimes. And like teaching and showing people that through our literal actions and like following through on those things it's extremely important to us. We can't just talk about it. We have to be about it. And I think that a lot of people talk about inclusivity and they don't actually do the hard stuff that makes people feel inclusive. And I'm not saying we are perfect because we are learning all the time. Kristin actually the other day said to me, she was like, you know, we should probably keep earplugs in our gym for people who have sensory problems with like the loud music. And I was like, that's a great idea. So things like that where we're constantly learning how to be more inclusive of people, to make our space more accommodating to people while also like having structure and like following our mission and like keeping people safe. But it's hard to be the like accountability holder, you know, like when somebody fucks up to have that conversation and be like, hey, like we need to talk about this thing that happened. And what has happened over the years that's really beautiful from having a ton of hard conversations and getting really good at having hard conversations is the people that wind up with us and stay with us are some of the strongest, coolest, smartest, most loving people in the whole world. When's this coming out?
This is coming out like maybe MLK.
Okay, so we're going to have our end of the year award ceremony before this comes out, so I can tell everybody here who our member of the year is, and it won't be breaking the secret. You just can't release this before December 30th.
No, this is like January 20-something. Perfect.
So every year we do like a little end of the year award ceremony, and we give out a member of the year award. Aww. And this year's member of the year is a man who's in his 40s. His name is Corey Costella. Aww. And he is a Metairie dad, a Yat. Aww. Like has a hunting lodge in Mississippi.
Is he like a jazz dad?
No, he is just like a white like a blue collar, whatever. He works in production. He's just he has a big old truck and like he is just like a yatty dad. And he comes to our gym every day and he says his pronouns. He shows up it so authentically. Aww. We have had to have so many not so many, but like, you know, he didn't grow up in our world. Our world is so strange to him. He has a wife and kids that are grown. Like sometimes he oversteps and he's not doing it on purpose. He's not doing it to cause harm, but like white men are so rarely held accountable. And also when they're held accountable, they so rarely receive it well. Yeah. But we've had conversations with Corey and I'm sure he'd be comfortable with me talking about this. So I don't mind. It's just like little things like, you know, he might like compliment somebody in a way where we have to be like, Corey, like we actually don't compliment people in those ways here. Like, and he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know? And like Corey didn't know what a they them pronoun was when he joined it, but like now he does, you know, like he gets it and he's like enthusiastically on board to be a very accepting
and to
and
evolve,
and
I should say.
to make a space, like we have tons of queer members, and like we love our queer community because we're a queer community, to make a space where those people feel safe, and then also to bring in the quote unquote like straight white cis male community and like have them come in, see what we're doing. They feel how good it feels in our space. They feel it, and like the good ones, they want to do what they need to do to be there. And we have some of those, like we got some of the good ones at our gym.
Yeah.
And like over the years, it's like people have been like, well, you should make this a queer only gym. And Kristin and I have always, isn't that interesting? And I'm like, it's so funny. And it's always queer people that say this. And we're just like, you know, that's not the point of what we're doing here. The point of what we're doing here is so that we make a space where every single person feels like they can be seen and understood here.
Yeah.
If they come here with love and compassion. If they also want to see and understand everybody here, they're welcome here.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we approach the space, which is why we'll never be queer only, you know? And like,
that's a great approach, you know? It's as long as everybody feels safe in the space, no matter how everyone want to show up, like that's all that really should matter. And it's anyone that is willing to be about that, even if they're not the greatest at it, as long as they're willing to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where we approach. But the hard part is doing the work to make that space. To be the people who have to hold people accountable all the time is really difficult. For a lot of reasons, because I'm a people pleaser. My wife's a people pleaser. We don't want to have to tell somebody, hey, what you're doing is hurting or problematic. And like, I'm not even talking about big stuff. I'm just talking about the little minutia, the micro stuff that like most people ignore. We try not to ignore that stuff because those are the little things where people start to not be seen, not to be feel like they're really being feeling held or seen or safe. So we try to approach everything as holistically and as immediately as we can. And we try to bring people in. And that's so hard. The work of inclusivity is so hard.
And that's why it doesn't happen everywhere.
It doesn't.
It's
and why is it always on the women and the queers and the people of color? It just always is. Like, we're the ones that are constantly having to teach the lessons.
Hallelujah.
It really is. Like, it's like people, God, it's exhausting. But, and then on top of that, what comes with that is I do feel like sometimes I am held and my wife is held to this just impossible standard because we're often the ones holding others accountable and leading that we are expected to be on and perfect a lot of the time. Yeah. And like, if we get something wrong, like people come down on us so hard. Our gym we did everything we possibly could during COVID. We followed all the protocols longer than any gym. We made up our own COVID protocol. If anyone got sick at our gym, we had a huge accountability process we went through. If anyone got sick for years, we followed that. And, you know, we still mess something up. And it's just like the way people will just come down on you when you don't get something right and they expect it from you with no grace. It can really sting, especially when your entire identity is wrapped into this thing. Yeah. Then it's like, it feels like the weight of messing up. It just feels like your whole identity just cracks. So that is the side that I think people say, don't start a small business. It's too much stress. That's the side, is the expectation. Everybody expects something of you. They
expect you to be perfect. And that is not the case.
And they hold you this impossible standard and they forget, like, you know, we're just people too. And we have bad days too. And we, like, you know, very likely may have less support in our life than you have. And like, please give us some grace. So
and I also feel as though like people, I'm not saying that those particular people, but like I feel like anyone that is coming down on anyone in that type of way and like making you feel bad for like messing up, it means something is going on in their life that has absolutely nothing to do with you, that they still haven't come to terms with.
Oh, we've learned that. Yes.
If they can't at least approach you in a way that makes you still feel seen and human and whatever, like you can still like get your point across without making someone feel bad.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, some people are just hurting and they're not there on the process. And we just try to show up and just try to be women of our word. As much as we can.
And I feel like that's where like the bless your heart like always just plays in the background of my head. It's like, oh, you being mean to me, bless your heart.
Aww, must be hard for you.
Yeah.
So it's been a long process, and I think that's the hardest part is the accountability, holding others accountable, being held to a high ass standard. Like as a leader is like, It's exhausting, and especially exhausting when things are hard already. Like this year has been extremely difficult to be a small business owner. Every peer that we have in this industry has told us that they are in the same exact boat. So I know it's not just us. Aww. Business isn't necessarily down, but the economy, all of our bills have doubled. And it's like, I can't outchase my bills doubling, you know, like even if I have sustainable growth, I can't outchase that. So this dog.
Yeah, there's a dog outside. I think he's usually tied up on the side right there. But yeah, it's okay. You're not gonna really hear it.
You're not gonna hear it. Okay, I'm about to say, Kristin, go pet the dog.
Yeah.
No, okay.
One other thing I wanted to just kind of quickly talk about, and I know we kind of are already talking about like just being in New Orleans or whatever, but one other thing I want to just kind of hear from you is just like your backstory on living here. I feel like you have such a, not a unique story, but like we don't hear it nearly as much because there's been such an influx of people that have come to the city in the last 10, 12 years or so that, you know, there's a whole other experience that I think folks that are at least from New Orleans have that we don't necessarily have. Like, as you were saying earlier, a lot of people are just like, you know, kind of coming here, planning their business and, you know, just trying to make taking and not necessarily giving, but like you've been here, so you've been able to see like the before and afters of like pre-Katrina, post-Katrina. So I want to hear more about like your experience in New Orleans pre-Katrina and then going into
I wrote a whole play on this actually.
Oh,
I did. It was called Be in Touch. So I'm from New Orleans, lived in New Orleans my whole life, and then I went away for college. I went up north and I had a great experience up there. I was in Philly, and so I got to be in another major city. I traveled all around the Northeast the entire time, so I got to go and spend a lot of time in other cities. I lived in some cities just briefly, like in summers and stuff, and so I just got to absorb a lot of other ways of being, and that was really good for me. Yeah. But I always knew what New Orleans was, and I always knew like what my home was like. Yeah. So when I moved back after college, I was shocked because I moved back in 2013. Oh. And that was when that first big old wave of transplants were really settling in. Because my theory of the transplants is that the Super Bowl in 2010 made New Orleans seem so cool, the comeback kid, a safe place to live, and all of a sudden we were in this cultural narrative of like New Orleans is the place to be. And so there was this huge influx of transplants that came in like 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Huge. Yeah. I mean, they're still coming, but like when I moved back, it was already the first wave, and I was just like walking around, doing things, and I was just like, this place has changed. Like I was gone 5 years, and it feels like a whole
different city.
Yeah, and I wrote a whole ass play about it. It was called Be in Touch, and it was about New Orleans, but it was like in the year 3000, and New Orleans was its own planet. Yeah. And the idea was that this character had gone to another planet for a little while and came back, and the planet had been taken over by aliens. And I did this whole like kind of sci-fi parody thing about transplants, and it was about how different the city was and how all the changes. I had a whole thing on Airbnb in there. Like,
yeah, I was gonna be like, what specifically were you like touching on?
I'm curious. Everything. I touched on everything. It was so fun. Like it was one of the best things I ever did was Be in Touch. I'd love to update it and do it again, honestly, because it's special into my heart. But the city has changed a lot, and it's changed even more since I've been back. And a big thing that I scream, and you know, people get mad at me about it because I talk about transplants and I talk about people that aren't from here, and I ask people all the time, like, where are you from? And people get really mad about that. And you always know a transplant because they'll be like, oh, I live in Mid-City. And I'm like, no.
I'm like, where are you from?
That's not what I asked you. I asked you where you were from, and like you could be offended by that, but like there's nothing wrong with that question inherently. Like nothing wrong with it. Nope. And I think that people forget like New Orleans is a city that experienced mass trauma because we had Katrina. Yeah. And so, and I'm not saying you had to go through Katrina to be from New Orleans. A lot of people say that. I think that, you know, people that have been here for, 15, 20 years, you're a New Orleanian. I'm not saying you're not. But there is some context around Katrina where we were all group traumatized. Yeah. And I think people need to honor that a little bit more when they're having conversations with people from here because
it's not the same as like being from anywhere else, really. Anywhere that has seen so much of like just a diss from the rest of the country or from the world. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah, unless you lived it, like you cannot really conceptualize what that experience was like and what it did to all of our brains. Also, like we all became like diehard New Orleanians after that. If you came back, or honestly, a lot of people that left, like
people that left, they still be homesick.
And they move back when they're older and stuff. Like it's just and I don't want to talk about Katrina too much, but I do feel like people that move here often forget that context, and they need to like be in reverence and respect of that context, because it shapes literally everything. Like I am a child whose family lost everything when I was a kid, and like I grew up twice actually, because my house burned down in 2001. And then in 2005 Katrina happened and flooded us out. But like that I think is just something that like I think I wish people held in reverence a little bit more. And it's like, I don't need you to be like, I don't care where you're from. It's just important for me to know, like, all right, how do I relate to you? You know, like, and that's when I ask people that. It's like, and that's like the high school question. Where'd you go to school? It's just like an immediate, like, how do I relate to you? And you know who gets mad about that question? The people that went to Newman, McGee, St. Martin's, the really, really rich people, because they're like, oh, you're instantly going to categorize me as a very rich person. And it's like, that's important too.
That's very important as well.
I actually would like to know your socioeconomic status, like, because it is also how do I relate to you? And like, that's not it's a neutral. Yeah. But everybody attaches morality to it. And it's like, it's a neutral, it's just information. And I can take that information and do whatever I want with it. It's my right, and it's your right to have your feelings. But like, I'm going to ask you, where are you from?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important. Like you need to, I don't know. To me, that makes sense, but I think it's just because I'm from here. My boyfriend is not from here. He's from Pennsylvania.
Oh my gosh.
The area that you went to school and everything. And, you know, one of the first conversations we had, even like as we started dating, I was just like, well, you're not from here. And like he got upset. And I had to go through that whole thing with him, and now he's come to an understanding now that he's been here a while and understands like the importance of the people that, not even just like the folks that were here pre-Katrina, but like the people that make up what New Orleans is, and the folks that are still here despite all of that, you know? Yeah. And it's not like you can just come in a place like, yes, we're very welcoming Southern hospitality, but there's also a sense of like, you have to take care of the people that are making the city what you
want to consume. Also. Yes.
You know, if you don't take care of those people, this city is not going to be.
There's like an acknowledgement of privilege that needs to happen too. Because like I meet a lot of like, you know, young queer people that move here. They're like, well, I need an accepting city. And it's like, I understand that, and New Orleans is going to be that for you, and I'm glad for you. But you do still come from a privilege from not being raised in this city and going through what this city went through. And like, you kind of just have to have like, I keep saying the word reverence, but you do need to have a little bit of reverence for that. And like for what came before you, and like the shoulders and the communities that you stand on, those have been fought for, scraped for by people who have been surviving
and
still surviving. And so the biggest thing that I see that's changed is there's a lot of outside money. Yeah. There's a lot of people that come with their outside ideas and they superimpose them on New Orleans culture. And in that process, they take a lot and they water stuff down. Yes. And I don't mind outside people adding and bringing us something new, but without the respect and reverence and love and adoration and the constant education of what came before you, you're not doing enough. Especially white people in a mostly black city.
The imagery in my head is all of the like predominantly white second lines with like the black.
We have enough dance crews.
Band.
We have enough dance crews. We're done. No more dance crews.
This will be coming out right before Mardi Gras. Good. Y'all take heed.
Stop starting dance crews. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Y'all are all going to hate me because of this. I don't care. We have enough.
I'm on the same wavelength. Yeah. It was definitely not like this pre-Katrina with the amount of the influx of dance crews. Yeah, I love 610 Stompers. I love them. I think they're, you know, I feel like they're a great exception, personally.
For you, not for me. Not for me.
It's not like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I don't know. It's
no. I don't. I'll tell you why I don't like 610 Stompers and everyone I know that does it. Listen, I'm here to give you some sound bites. That's what I'm here for. Okay, like, here's my thing with the 610 Stompers, okay? The 610 Stompers exist because they want to make fun of women. They started a dance.
Oh,
They
you
started
right.
a bad dance crew
I didn't even think
to
about
make fun of all the women that take themselves so seriously in their dance crews.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a ton of parody dance crews that really do like apply themselves. And to be fair, in 610 Stompers parodying, they are now the most serious dance crew who they can't even parody anymore. They actually have dances. They actually have a lot of rules. They have a huge fundraiser and they do a lot of good. I don't hate the 610 Stompers, but it was born.
But the foundation,
The
of
joke
Yeah.
was like, we're just a bunch of dudes who can't dance. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's funny. And now they're huge. And what's funny is that it took the dudes making fun of the women for the small dance crew thing to just blow up because they blew everybody up.
Yeah.
It had to be the white guys making fun of women.
Always.
So I don't like that part of it. And they might disagree with me, but that's how I've always perceived it. And I
I
love
love
dance
that.
crews. I love dance crews generally.
I just always
We
when
have
I
too
saw
many of
the
them.
dance, and I think pre-Katrina we had the actually really good dance crews.
We did.
By predominantly black dancers.
We did.
And they had their little marching boots and stuff, you know, like, and that was it. Like that's all I needed personally.
And now all the white ladies have the white boots.
Yeah.
Every Mardi Gras, you see all the little skinny white
it's
ladies
not
with the white
it's
boots.
just not the same. It's really not the same. Like I understand like New Orleans is trying to be, or at least the new Orleans is trying to be really inclusive. Like everybody that wants to be a part of a parade, just to be a part of a parade.
That's the thing is sometimes we're too inclusive.
I 100% agree. And you know,
But I mean, just like how Mardi Gras parades, the city only gives out so many permits. There's a reason why. There's a reason why we only have so many parades, you know? And like it's ridiculous that Nick still gets a permit. They should be revoked. The city has just really failed us on that front. They should be watching out for us. They should just be done. They should not have their permit. It should go to a new crew that like really has something to offer the city for once.
The city needs money.
Yes.
Or the city is trying to
But they could get it from a
money.
better crew, you know?
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we kind of put these quotas on things, you know? Because like it does kind of maintain like a certain level of culture and like respectability, but now there's like a friggin' dance crew for everything you could possibly think of, you know?
Even dance crews that don't necessarily march like in the actual parade. They're like kind of all over the place, but
and I think it's, to be fair, like I'm shit talking, but to be fair, those are just people looking for community. And what I would argue to say is that there's so many existing communities. I see, this is another thing. This is to the point of what we're making. Okay. People come here and they start things because they want to build a community. They come and they start their thing. They move here and they start their thing. With no respect for what's come before them, there are communities they can participate in. They could nestle in a little bit before they just go start their own thing.
And I also wonder, like, I wouldn't necessarily say like they've done like the full on research of like, what it is that they're trying to start.
Yeah.
Like, I understand how creativity works sometimes where, like, you're just inspired by something.
Of course.
But I think that's kind of like just, I don't know. I think about, like, folks that maybe, try to just do, like, a native headdress for, like, a costume.
Yeah.
And not really understanding, like, what they're wearing. No context.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, all these dance crews that start a lot of them have no context of what the dance crew culture was like in New Orleans, like specifically in the 90s when we were growing up. Like, it was a very specific thing, and it was women, young black women for the most part, putting it all out there on the parade routes. Yeah. And then people wanted a piece of that, you know? And I get that, and that's fun. But there's a place to appreciate too, And I just wish there were more appreciators of things. And New Orleans has a ton of appreciators. Don't get me wrong, but I just want that to be step number one. I was actually talking about this the other day with my wife. I was like, before you can be somebody's friend, you have to be their fan. You got to be somebody's fan. And so, like, I want more people to come be fans of New Orleans and take it in as a fan. Taking it as a fan and appreciate it a lot before you just start, like, getting yours.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. When you and y'all and Lefty were talking about Disney.
Oh yeah, we were talking
and
about
just
Disney
like
this.
Like everybody knows Disney at this point in the entire world. It's because they've had so much time to really engulf themselves in the culture of Disney that by the time they get to like experience it, like maybe at Disney World or whatever, like they understand they know the assignment, I guess, of like they understand like why they're there. They're able to really engulf and like appreciate it. Yeah. And they're not going to try to do Disney wrong because Disney gonna come back first off and like get them for that. But it's kind of, I don't know if that's like a good comparison, but
no, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that is what the landscape shift has been. If we could just sum it up, the landscape shift in New Orleans has been a lot of people coming and not appreciating. They don't appreciate as much as they take. Yes. And it's like we need more fans in New Orleans, people that are going to advocate for the people of New Orleans, people that are going to move here and actually vote. That's the other thing. So many of these transplants move here. They don't even change their registration. They don't vote
because
here.
they're trying. It's the insurance, the car insurance.
The car insurance. It's like, well, then don't move here. Like,
Right.
it's expensive. You need to vote in these local elections, especially white people. Like,
Yes.
that is one thing that, like, really irks me is, like, people not voting and, like, not being from here and, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I love this city, and I think we need more appreciators. We need more lovers. We need more people that are willing to fight for what we need and show up for the people that are doing the work.
Yes.
You know, like, show up for the people that are already doing the thing you're inspired by, and be a fan of those people before you just go start something.
Exactly, because like they've already been doing the work for a while, and you can learn a lot from them anyway. So
Exactly.
might as well.
Exactly.
Wow, this is a beautiful button to just like.
Man, we
wrap
went
us
everywhere.
up. We could talk. I love I'm absolutely loving this conversation.
We can talk forever.
We're gonna talk forever, but we're gonna bring you back. We're gonna bring you back because
Bring
like
'em back.
this has been great. I
Yay.
absolutely love this. Thank you so much for being a part
you.
of this episode. Let us know where they can find you so that, you know, anyone that's just seeing you for the first
Let me
time.
tell you about all the places that you can find me. First of all, our gym, Vitality Community Fitness, is in Metairie, Louisiana. We always offer a 3-day trial. So you can always come try our gym for free, 3 classes in a week, anytime. You can go to our website, vitalitycommunityfitness.com or goodworkoutsnicepeople.com and do a trial with us, or come to one of our free workouts. We have a free workout every month. It's called Friends and Family Day. Sometimes we pop up around the city. We do workouts in the parks. So we're a little bit everywhere. So please follow us, Vitality CF on Instagram. You can follow Mary's Rack. I'm on Instagram at Mary's Rack, and I'm also on YouTube. I make videos of me styling my clients. I love my YouTube channel.
The best.
Yeah, I love my YouTube channel. I also do closet cleanout videos there, and I'm also on TikTok. I actually am pretty. I have like 40,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh shoot!
I blew up on TikTok a few
Come
times.
on.
I know. I'm not good at it anymore.
Yeah,
but
but
I
it's
have
still-
blown up there once or twice.
Right.
But I am on TikTok. I'm barely posting there, but I am there. So check me out on TikTok. And then Planet Nola is my podcast, and my dear friend Carrie Mulder. Very similar to this podcast. We just talk. We just get into it. We talk about New Orleans. We talk about what we love, what we're loving, and what we're doing. And it's just creative people, fun people. I'm definitely gonna have J.Mix on there very soon.
What?
Yes. I can't wait.
Fire.
And yeah, that's all the places to find me. I think.
Well, if there's any more and you tell me afterwards, I will add it into the
Awesome.
description so we have it.
Great.
All right, y'all. Happy Mardi Gras, and I hope that the transplants weren't mad at all. but-
Laissez
oh,
le
well.
bon temps rouler, transplants.
Right. Okay, everybody. Bye. I'll see y'all later.
Bye. That's the sound bite.
Yeah. Laissez
Le
le
bon
bon